Welcome to the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, where we explore the impact of EdTech on the student experience with engaging, fun, and relevant conversations that honor the wide range of work happening all across the higher ed ecosystem. I'm your host, Dustin Ramsdell. I've been working in and around higher ed for the past decade, focused on student support and digital experience. Join me every week for discussions with some of the best minds in education technology. We'll be bringing you their perspectives on how digital transformation is reshaping the way we recruit, engage, and graduate learners. You'll hear firsthand accounts of how institutional leaders are developing their strategy, as well as get deeper on the stories of how these EdTech tools are being built to foster better student outcomes. With that, let's get to today's episode. Welcome back, everyone, for another bonus live episode of the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, recorded here at the Engage Summit in Charlotte. It's been a beautiful week so far, some great conversations, great networking, lots of fun here. So we're here with another interview with an institutional representative, a leader out in the field. Always great to talk with folks doing the work. So Alex, if you want to briefly introduce yourself, kind of go over your background, and then we'll go from there.
Of course. So thank you for having me and inviting me. We got to connect over email and take a moment to meet each other at a social when this event kicked off. So I'm glad we have a little bit of context going into this. But yeah, I'm the Director of Enrollment and Recruitment Strategy at Cape Cod Community College. Cape Cod Community College is a small community college right in the heart of Cape Cod. We are beautifully centrally located right in West Barnstable, which is one of the oldest villages on Cape Cod. And we serve a really unique student population. We have high school students doing dual enrollment all the way through multiple career changers, veterans, and we have some unique programs too. We have aviation maintenance technology, we have funeral service. So we have students coming from all over to do our programs. And part of my role at the college is helping to ensure that students have a successful journey from the time that they inquire all the way through the time that they graduate, through effective communication strategy, through technology, through our CRM, and making sure any gaps, bottlenecks, or challenges that they have in that process are addressed, primarily through effective communication, enrollment, and admission strategy.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, that's all the kind of stuff I feel like it's just kind of swirling around, the conversations here. And yeah, it was great to, that social on the first night was mini golf, which I loved. It was a great time. And just obviously kind of part of the magic, like everybody's just kind of having fun together, connecting, talking, and all that. But always just like to ask people, I know you have a session as we're recording this, it's going to happen this afternoon. Just like what brings you to the Engage Summit? So, if you want to just kind of give a shout out to your session, but is there something that's kind of top of mind or, just kind of what's bringing you here?
So this is my second Engage. I attended last year. I came by myself, not knowing what to expect. It was our first year with Element451. So, last year it was truly like drinking from a fire hose, learning about all of the innovations coming down the pipeline. After an additional year under our belt as an institution with Element451, we really got our hands dirty with using a lot more of the agentic features through our AI agents. So that's what I'm presenting on this year. So my session is called Meet Harper, how Cape Cod Community College built a frontline AI admissions agent. And when Cape Cod Community College first rolled out with Element451, we were still kind of stuck in the paper ages of 90s admissions. We were using paper files. We had a very antiquated online application, but beyond that, students weren't getting follow-up. We didn't have a traditional funnel. We weren't really able to track students through their journey. So the challenges were ever present, and students were suffering from it. So one of the first things we did as an institution was we rolled out a frontline admissions agent to help with inquiries, to help to capture student questions from our website, and to help connect students to human admissions counselors, but also help them get started with certain calls to action, like starting an application, signing up for an event, or coming in for a campus tour. And we really saw major impacts through our agent rollout. And it is just so exciting to come back this year and share our experience and talk about these outcomes and the fruit of the labor that we put in over the past several years, truly moving from a paper-based manual process to now an agent-centered process, which is fully automated and allows our staff to get their time back to focus on students who need more focused support.
Yeah, and we're right in the thick of it here. I think a session just let out right here. Right, yeah. Just all the energy here. We're right in the thick of it. But and I think, obviously, you're kind of giving a teaser a bit there for your session, being able to speak to that. And I think, it's always really powerful, those moments when that is such a leaps and bounds sort of change, because like sometimes it can be tough if it's like, oh, it's just sort of a marginal improvement, we're saving a little bit of time here and there, whatever. But like, it's so powerful, like just the the paradigm shift that you were speaking to and everything. Because I just wanted to kind of capture it a little bit, like that you've been at Cape Cod Community College for a long time, like just the changes that you've seen, or sort of just like what that experience has been like. Because I guess, like you captured one big element of it, of the sort of like, hard copies and like doing things via paper and everything to automated processes. So if you want to, dig a little bit deeper on that or other stuff, I guess just kind of, culturally, workflows or, anything that comes to mind over your time.
Cape Cod, I've been at Cape Cod Community College for 13 years. We are essentially a mom and pop shop of community colleges. If you've ever been to Cape Cod and gone into any of the small villages on the Cape, a lot of those institutions have been there for 50 plus years. There are, a lot of retail shops, mini golf, and little stores along the Cape that really are the heart of what makes Cape Cod in our tourist culture pop. But you go into these places and you can see that they've been built through years of relationship. People come into these stores and they're used to that mom and pop experience of people knowing your name and understanding, how's your family, how is your kids, and learning truly their stories. It's not just about the transaction of serving them as a customer. It's about that relational experience. Cape Cod Community College is much like that. We are truly a community. We have a small population of students, but we are focused on that student experience in a very relational way. Connecting students, we know everybody by name. And when we adopted Element451 coming into a CRM, that was one of our biggest uncertainties and fears was we don't want to lose that relational aspect of being able to support our students who we know by name. We don't want to roll them into a big CRM system where they're just a number and they're getting a generic, sterile experience. We wanted a system that was able to support their experience while also being able to maintain that relationship with the student. And we've been able to really strike that chord really perfectly with Element451 because through a lot of our workflows and automations, we've been able to free up staff time and not be so reliant on manual workload of doing mail merges and individual phone calls and responding to text messages individually. Now, if a student responds to a message at 11 p.m., we don't have to stress about checking back to a inbox full of messages or coming in the morning and having a voicemail box that has 30 messages in it. Now it's a matter of, wow, the agent handled a lot of these calls, a lot of these questions that were usually put on a counselor's up, repetitive questions that we answer 30 or 40 times a day. We are now handling that, handing that over to the agents, and we're now able to support students on a more relational manner. So, we have a lot of students who come in with a lot of high need. We have students who it's their first generation college students, the first in their family to go to college. They don't necessarily understand the lingo that we know of higher ed, talking about FAFSA, talking about deadlines, even terms like semester and credit count. These are sometimes native terms to some of these students, but also we have a lot of students who are dealing with a lot of life struggles. Some are dealing with children, some are dealing with aging parents, some both at the same time. So our goal is how can we best support these students and make sure that we're there for them when they need it the most, so that way we can hand off a lot of those manual tasks to the agents so we can better focus on the actual student.
Well, yeah, and I like kind of how you approach that question because it's like, some things change, some things stay the same. You kind of had a North Star that was guiding you through, a pretty major shift in your workflows and everything. And the idea that, there might be a notion that, how you were saying, like doing something like this would impair, infringe on that relational piece, but it actually enables it that much more, that you have like that ability and opportunity to do that high touch work and everything. So, and I think that is even the idea of like, just a very smart way. I mean, approaching any sort of like digital transformation project is just making sure you kind of have a clear like, cultural North Star kind of thing of like, yeah, we want to make sure that we maintain this, or, we're always, seeking the input of, students or, stakeholders or whatever it might be. And I think, that kind of solves for a lot of the things that people might be worried about in a situation like that. But so you had raised your hand to be a guest on our shows and everything. So you gave a little context about your work. So I'm going to kind of pinpoint on one of those things of, your role, like enrollment and recruitment strategy. How do you partner with marketing at your institution? Because it's usually that they are pretty intertwined. So I'm curious, just like, if you can kind of just note a particular kind of thing that you really partner on that you feel like is like a great example.
I have to give kudos to our marketing and communication team. They are the best partners that we could possibly have. I know at a lot of institutions, between enrollment and marketing, there's a constant butting of heads because, there's often a shared mission, but there's different ideas on how they're going to accomplish that mission. We have an incredible collaborative process with our marketing and communication team. What's amazing is that they're incredibly gifted. They've won national awards for their marketing, and you can go on our website, on our social media to just see that yourself, that they've done incredible work with marketing and really branding our college to fit that Cape Cod Community College feel, because we're a unique situation, being a seasonal, beautiful coastal environment. They've done a great job of matching that with our brand and with our student population. But we have frequent meetings with them weekly to connect on what's needed in terms of materials, in terms of web strategy, what we're doing with communicating with students on the enrollment end, with acceptance letters. Everything that we do is branded. Even our envelopes that go out, what's in the envelopes, our letters, to what's happening in Element. We want to make sure that everything has a branded feel. There's nothing worse than getting 3 different materials, a text message, an email, a letter in the mail, going on our website and having it all look different. So our marketing team we work hand in hand with our marketing team. They're coming from all over, marketing and higher ed, but they just come with a wealth of knowledge, and we share what we have to work together to really maximize that. And it's about the student, really. We want students to have the best experience possible, and students have come to expect high-level things. You go on Amazon and you can go on your app and order something within a few seconds, and then it's delivered to your door sometimes within 24 hours. Now, if somebody goes to do that with their college experience and they get a clunky experience, they're not getting a response for a couple days, they're not being able to talk to a real person, and it looks terrible. It looks like it was designed in word art or we're not. It's not going to be a great experience. So having a good user experience, not only visually, but also from a practical perspective, is really important. So I have to give kudos to our marketing and communication team, because they're the best.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, just the idea too that kind of the differentiator, what makes you unique, and like those sort of things, and how you can really capture that. Because I do think like we've reached a moment where a lot of higher ed leaders are kind of acknowledging that there's become this sort of like sort of like whitewash it, like every kind of website kind of feels the same, and like, and that does just kind of happen, I think, in certain markets. But yeah, like you just have to know what your differentiators are. Sometimes that is sort of a cultural piece, or if it is like, different program offerings, or, whatever it might be, and really uplift that, have it, kind of permeate and be consistent. But I think, it is the idea of like, thankfully, again, I think it's something that's kind of become more normalized. The idea of marketing and like admissions, recruitment, enrollment efforts are really closely intertwined, and sometimes maybe the same team or whatever else, but you obviously wouldn't want those teams working, kind of like divergent, strategies and communications and stuff. So,
and one of those important elements is that we have to be honest with each other. There are times where it's like, this just doesn't work, or students aren't giving us good feedback on that. They don't have egos, so they're like, okay, let's work together to make it work. And the same is true on their side. They're honest with us. If something's not working, if something doesn't look right, if it's not feeling like it's on brand, there's no egos, there's no hurt feelings if we have to change something. We're ultimately working for the same goal, and that's a huge part of it.
Well, yeah, because I think there's like on either end of the spectrum, like you could have a lot of like, antagonistic kind of feelings where it's like, I'm blaming you, marketing, because I'm not getting enough good leads. And it's like, well, hey, we got you all these leads, and what are you doing with the, like, if there's like, lack of communication or, a lot of like, egos or different things like that, you could see a version where there's a lot of friction, but certainly I think undergirded by like, a great platform like digital tools and different things I think can help folks come together, collaborate better, and work towards the same goal. So I just kind of wanted to capture that essence, because I think it, any of the work that's happening, on any team at any institution isn't happening in a vacuum. So you do have to like just try to make sure that you're always at least like communicating with one another, but trying to be as transparent and collaborative, with your colleagues and everything. You're just gonna, sort of rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing. But so as we're wrapping up, is there anything that you are looking forward to with your work? Certainly, I mean, you're noting kind of, your journey with Element, or, we're recording this, like we're in the summer, I don't know how the summer is, I guess, seasonally beautiful, I'm sure, up in Cape Cod, but like, just like your workflows and everything, is there anything that you're working on, maybe in anticipation of the next academic year? Just, anything that you are looking forward to with your work?
So we're never satisfied. Continuous improvement is a big part of our ethos. So, even if we build a product and it looks great, we want to make sure that students are experiencing the best possible outcome. So one thing that we're doing is we're working on an online orientation and making sure that our online orientation matches and is cohesive with our branding, but also with our student experience when they start at the college. So I was assigned to do that primarily because we want a unified experience, and I oversee all of our communications and systems with Element451, which is, from the time a student inquires all the way through, their whole enrollment journey. We want that to be cohesive. So part of that experience is our online new student orientation. I've been working on that all summer. Like you said, the summer is kind of a time where, our goals change because we don't have students in front of us as much. So we work on more of those hands-on projects. But we also saw, just before I sat down, Element's rolling out some new products and some upgrades over the next several months, and we're excited to start using those. We are, much like Element451, we want to continually improve the student journey, and we want the students to have the best possible experience, because we're not here to give students necessarily a marketing piece. We want to give them a beneficial higher ed student experience when they enroll. And we want them to feel like it's easy for them. And I always say this, the hardest part of college shouldn't be the application or coming through the college process. We want that to be the easiest process. So applying to the college, filling out FAFSA, getting your next steps should be the easiest process for the student. And if they have questions or uncertainties, that's where our dedicated staff can jump in and help them through that process. But we want to make sure we have the technology that supports it as well.
Yeah, because I think the big part for me with all that is like, and I just love kind of the spirit of it. You're like kind of like, always improving, always iterating and all that. Because I think, like for any institution, like you can't just, especially nowadays, like rest on your laurels of just like, the students will come, it'll all work out somehow, whatever. Like making sure that you almost have like some agency or so, like, they're going to come because we're, doing all this stuff to make sure, they're having a good experience, and like, they're getting the right message at the right time that, really embodies who we are as an institution. So, I mean, I think it is just, this moment kind of demands, I think, exactly the sort of perspective and the strategy you all are implementing there at Cape Cod Community College. And we'll wrap with just one kind of standard question I like asking folks on the podcast. Advice that you would give to other higher ed leaders navigating this moment?
That's a good question. Students are really uncertain about the future, and we at the community college might have a different experience than a four-year school. So I can speak to community colleges where we serve a lot of students who have to decide, not whether to go to a community college or go to a four-year school. They have to decide whether to go to college or work, or go to college or take care of their kids, or go to college or get a second job. So our conversation might be a little bit different than you might have at a four-year institution that serves traditional students. We're not necessarily competing with, other colleges and giving the best financial aid packages and showing off sports and dorms. No, we're really giving students an opportunity to change their life. And oftentimes it's a matter of competing interests and opportunity costs for a lot of our students. So I would say that I think the best thing we can do as institutions is be student-centered. It can be exciting to see all these polished products and marketing, but the students are really the heart of everything that we do. And I've said it several times before, this technology is incredible. We've been able to elevate our game, 10 times over with Element451, but it ultimately all comes down to the student journey and being able to support them. So the biggest advice I would give realistically is, no matter how exciting and into the future you want to get with technology, never lose the sense of why you're doing it, and that's to improve the student experience so that students are able to do what they need to do, and that's to ultimately earn a degree and continue on, whether to get a job, to transfer to a college, to get into an area where they can be an example for their kids, or to level up in their career, whatever it might be. They have different goals, but that's ultimately the focus. Don't lose that sense of why you're here.
Yeah, I love that. And I think just a bit of what you're saying there that kind of resonates with me too is kind of make sure you have a little stake behind the sizzle, if you're using all these fancy tools or platforms, or you have amazing marketing and all these kind of stuff, but then it's it sort of falls flat because you've not really thought through, the student journey, what their experience is like, and that sort of thing. So I think that kind of is what's sitting with me, I guess, is a good bit of advice too.
I'll just close with this. So in 2021, Starbucks realized that they could automate almost all of their processes. Even with online, somebody could go in and put their Starbucks order in, and they could automate their process and have, even robots build out a lot of the food products and the drinks. And Starbucks sales declined. It dipped dramatically because customers are going in and they weren't getting that relational experience of a cafe. So the new CEO, Brian Nichols, came in and he was like, well, how can we fix this? Automation isn't the problem. It's not making things faster, not making things quicker and easier through an app. It's about kind of restoring our ethos of a cafe. What is Starbucks? It's a cafe. We're not an IT company. So they opened up a lot of their cafes to be more social spaces, third spaces, and people can have more customization and options and feel like, hey, I'm part of this relational experience of going to a cafe in that community. That's how I viewed, a lot of what we do here. It's we can automate, we can make things efficient and as clean, and the user experience would be super slick, but we don't want to lose that relational community of a college. So you can see that there's a double-edged sword here with automation. You have to be balanced with it and it's really kind of an art in a way.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to put it. And yeah, just really appreciate you hanging out and sharing all you did, Alex. And I have ways to connect with Alex and check out the beautiful websites and things of Cape Cod Community College in the episode description. But just really appreciate a bit of your time.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Geek podcast. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow. So be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at Element451.com.